What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another day in the life of a medical student. If you're new here, my name is J.R. Smith. I am a now third-year medical student at the Mayo Clinic, currently in my peds rotation, and I am super excited to kind of bring you guys along for my first kind of vlog as a third year in like a clerkship. So that's gonna be fun. Today's gonna be relatively chill. I'm in the outpatient or clinic kind of setting today with the peds GI or gastroenterology team, and I'll be working with one physician who specializes in pediatric transplant patients this morning, and this afternoon I'll be working with a physician who specializes in inflammatory bowel disease in pediatric patients. And so in the outpatient setting, my responsibility as a medical student is usually to go and see the patient first, and kind of get their history. Sometimes I perform kind of a preliminary physical, and then I go and do what's called staffing the patient, which is essentially going and taking the history that I got from the patient and all of the findings that I may have found on physical exam, present that to the consultant that I'm working with, talk things over, maybe come up with a plan, and then we go back in together and discuss that plan, which is different than the inpatient setting where patients are hospitalized and you have things like rounds and the schedule may be a little longer and a little more busy and you may be doing more things. But I'll talk about that and just how the overall pediatric clerkship has been so far a little later. Right now, I'm gonna review some of the patients' charts who I'll be seeing so I can make sure I'm ready and prepared, and I'll check in with you guys in a little bit. I'm home. My last day.
You're done.
I'm all done. Hey. I'm all done with peds. I'm all done with
peds. It's my nap
peds.
time.
I know. Yeah. All right, let's talk all things pediatrics. So again, I was in the clinic today seeing pediatric patients coming in for something related to the GI system. But the vast majority of my time in my pediatric clerkship was spent in the inpatient setting. And schools are going to be different, clerkships are going to be different, so I can only speak for mine. But I do think that there's gonna be some similarities. And the vast majority of my time in my pediatric clerkship was actually in the inpatient setting. Now, the way that our clerkship works is that they have our weeks spread out across various different aspects of pediatrics. So we spent 2 weeks on pediatric hospital medicine during the day. So that's that inpatient hospital care during the day. We spent 1 week doing that inpatient hospital care during night. So peds hospital night. We spent another week in the newborn nursery, so taking care of kiddos fresh out the womb. We spent another week in the pediatric emergency department, and half of these were morning shifts and half of these were night shifts. And finally, we spent a week on a specialty service. So for me, that was GI, but this could be things like peds neuro or peds cardio, etc. And based on what week you're in, your schedule varies pretty dramatically. For example, during my newborn nursery week, we got there at like 7 and a lot of times we left at like noon. But during my hospital service during the day shift, we got there at like 6 and we stayed until like 3:30. And like peds emergency department night shift, you can start at 5 p.m. and not leave until like 2 a.m. So as you can see, things are very, very different depending on what week you're on. Your schedule will probably not be the same throughout your clerkship. But the really cool thing about pediatrics in specific is there's this super broad range of things that you can see, ranging from congenital disorders and babies that require very extensive medical and even sometimes surgical management, to things like depression and anxiety in teenagers, and even the occasional broken bone in the peds emergency department. And this just highlights the fact that if you're interested in a field where you'll see a very broad range of things, peds might be for you. Now, one challenge I found, for me at least, is that it can be challenging at times to communicate with patients who cannot communicate back with you, and having to rely solely on the history from like a parent or something like that. Sometimes it works out very, very well, and sometimes it doesn't. So that was something that I think was hard for me. And another thing that I found myself kind of struggling with throughout is I think I'm an emotional person naturally. It can be very difficult to see kids who are sick, but at the same time, you know, it just can be that much more rewarding when you play a role in making them feel better. Now, one thing that I don't think gets emphasized enough about clerkships in general is that you still have to study like significant amounts of time. You're not going to learn everything you need to for your exam at the end of a clerkship during working in the hospital or clinic or whatever else you're doing. At the end of every clerkship or rotation, you're going to have an exam, oftentimes a shelf exam, which is just a test covering everything related to that clerkship, and it definitely requires a lot of studying to do well. Today was my last day having any clinical responsibilities, but I still have my shelf exam tomorrow. And over the 6 weeks of this clerkship, I have been spending as much time as possible outside of my clinical responsibilities, doing as much practice questions, UWorld, AMBOSS, those kind of things as possible. And as you guys saw, still trying my best to kind of keep up with my Anki, but it can be a lot. It can be a lot trying to balance everything that you're doing in the clinic, preparing for the day, reviewing your patients, making sure that you're going to perform well in the clinic, while also doing kind of self-studying and making sure that you'll perform well at the end of your clerkship. It can be a lot, and I know a lot of people are super excited about third year and about your clerkships, and you know, which rightfully so. It's gonna be an incredible experience making the transition from classroom to hospital and clinic, but it is something where your schedule gets far more busy than it was during the first two years of medical school. And I don't think that people emphasize that enough. I think people always like to highlight how fun it is to be in the hospital and things like that, which it is. Absolutely. I absolutely loved these 6 weeks with the peds department. But that being said, you will be much more busy than you probably were during your pre-clerkship phase of medical school. If you are a pro at clerkships and you're finishing your third year now, leave some advice in the comments below, because it can get busy, y'all. But nonetheless, again, everything that people do say about the third year of medical school is still true, in that it's fun, it's exciting, you have that thrill of being able to fulfill that passion for helping people that, you know, brought you here in the first place. All of that is real. And in terms of pediatrics, I absolutely loved it. I have to admit that I have definitely given my 4-month-old a full body exam a couple times over the past couple of weeks, but I think that's to be expected. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope that you guys did enjoy the video. I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight on what you can expect, not only from pediatrics, you know, but also just in terms of what your clerkships may look like. I'm going to continue to show you what my experience looks like, so maybe it'll give you a little insight into what you can expect for yours. But if you did enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, keep evolving, and I'll see you guys in the next one.